Hi guys, I'm sure within the first few seconds you have already realized that this video is very different to the other videos that I've done, and that is deliberate. It's by choice. I have been making a huge mistake over the last year or so whilst I've been trying to make videos, and I realize now what that mistake was. And I want to talk to you about it for a little bit, because when you build and paint your miniatures, I want to make sure that you are approaching this from the right mindset so that you don't make major mistakes with your hobby, and so that your hobby endures, or rather your passion for the hobby endures. So if you have the time to sit down and have a listen, that'll be awesome. This is Cursed Crusader Arts. So recently there have been some awesome miniatures revealed by Games Workshop. We've just had the Krieg box set released, we have some pre-orders for the new Eldar miniatures, and we have had the reveal of the new Emperor's Children models, which is very exciting. You know, Emperor's Children are not only my favourite army, but they were the first army that I ever did. It's the one that got me into the hobby in the first place. And I've been realising it for a while. It's been a gradual realisation over the last few months that I have been making a huge mistake, and it's a big character flaw that we are all subject to. It's a bit of hubris that gets in the way of what we actually enjoy and the reasons why we enjoy the things we enjoy. I want to start off with just YouTube in general, and then later on I will get into the specifics about the miniature hobby, right? Not just Warhammer, but the miniatures as a whole. When I started YouTube, I wanted to share my love and passion for building and painting these miniatures, and the love for the stories that these characters are in. I'm a big fan of course, there's the Horus Heresy, but my favourite Warhammer books are the Gotrek and Felix and Ulrika the Vampire series. They're really good at invoking this mental image in my mind about what kind of world they live in that forces them to do the things that they do, to wage the battles and the wars, or to take sacred oaths that mean they must seek out glorious battles to die in order to be redeemed. And I want to reflect that in miniatures. And this is what I wanted to show when I started making YouTube videos. When you look at my very first video, I'm building and painting a Crimson Fist Primaris Space Marine from one of the Starter magazines, right? And I didn't have a lot of stuff because all of the things that I used to have when I was younger, I'd given 95% of it away to my uncle. So when I started this model, I didn't have a lot of resources. Of course, my dad was here and he shared a few bits and pieces with me just so that I could add a little something to the model, but ultimately, all I had was this model and my knowledge that I had retained. And it came out really, really good. It's an awesome model. I made a couple of changes, like changing the angle of the head. I added a orc skull to the base, and I did a little bit of freehand, right? It was a really fun starter model, and it got me excited to build things again. And since then, I have grown, and I've got a few Ogrins, I've got some Sisters of Battle, I got a Skaven model, and some Dark Angels, and it's all very, very cool. But as I began making videos on these things, I became more focused on trying to get my videos out to people and trying to get YouTube to promote my videos so that people can see them and they can enjoy the things that I enjoy and understand why I enjoy them the way that I do. And perhaps if someone is starting again, or starting for the first time, they can approach this from a different angle to what we normally see. But as a result, I lost my focus on what I was doing, and it became more about trying to be better than the previous video in the wrong ways. Now, every time you make a video or every time you paint a miniature, you do want it to be better than the last. You always want to grow and progress. But it's not about being the best every single time. You need a degree of humility in order to understand why you're trying to improve and what you're trying to improve. Now, talking about my uncle again, my uncle also does YouTube, and he's very successful with YouTube, and he has other projects outside of YouTube. But out of respect for him, he has asked me not to mention his channel and his name until he's ready to do so. The reason I tell you about my uncle and his channel is because I went to visit him a few months into my YouTube career, so to speak. He said something very, very important, but I didn't really know how to deal with it. He said to me, when you do YouTube, you are not an artist. You are a YouTuber. And I disagreed with him then, although I didn't say it. And I do disagree with him now. And I don't mean this in a horrible way. I think what he was trying to do was trying to get me to understand the dedication to YouTube that you need to have in order to make it work, right? But I think because of my inexperience, I have taken that information home and I have mistakenly focused only on the mechanical side of YouTube rather than the actual passionate characteristics that YouTube requires of the YouTuber itself. It's less about no longer being an artist and you are now a YouTuber and that is it. It's more of a case of you are an artist who is also a YouTuber. A person can be many different things. It's quite interesting when you go out and meet somebody and you say to them, "Oh, what do you do? Who are you? What do you do?" Right? If you are in a place like the UK where I'm in, or America, the first thing you talk about is your job. Whether you're a sales agent, a soldier, a cleaner, a fast food server, or any other number of things. Those are the things that we always talk about. That is what we identify ourselves as, right? So in that vein, if your job is to make YouTube videos because that is how you make your money, you are a YouTuber. But the thing is, when someone says to you, "Oh, I'm a YouTuber," that doesn't tell you anything. That doesn't tell you who the person is. It doesn't tell you what they do. It just means that they make YouTube videos. But what do you make YouTube videos about? Right? In my uncle's case, he reads stories, so he is a narrator. He makes his own stories and then reads them out, so he's also a writer. In my sense, I am a person who builds and paints miniatures on YouTube. That means I create art, right? So I'm an artist and a YouTuber. He creates stories and he reads them out. He is a narrator, he's a writer, he is an artist and a YouTuber. When you make a video, you need to craft them in such a way that they speak to people, that they hook the person in and get them to pay attention and to listen to what you have to say. And if you're here right now listening to these words, it means that this video has spoken to you in such a way that you are intrigued by what I have to say and you have found value in the things that I've already said. The video itself is a piece of art. And so to say that you are not an artist anymore and you are a YouTuber first and foremost, I think is mistaken. So how does this relate to the miniatures, right? What is the actual problem? What is the very thing that we're talking about that will make you fail if you do this one thing? Well, it's arrogance. And it's quite a strong-willed, and we live in an age today where we don't like these strong views and opinions being thrown around. People get hurt and upset by them, but we need to be very careful because on the internet, arrogant behavior is one of the biggest sicknesses that we see online. And I have done that. So let me tell you about it, right? Let's talk about the Emperor's Children, because the Emperor's Children are awesome. I love them. I was really excited for the Emperor's Children when I heard that new models were coming out. This is before the reveal at Las Vegas. So I'm looking up painting guides. Although I paint models and I use my own schemes, I like to see what other people do, especially if it's a grimdark or Blanchitsu style. And I got very upset. And if my mom is listening to this, I'm very sorry for making your ears bleed with my ranting. But let me tell you guys about what I was ranting about. Okay, as my mom says, I can be a snob sometimes. When I looked at paint guides, almost every single Emperor's Children paint guide I found painted them purple. And I was very upset because of my passion, right? I am very passionate about the Emperor's Children, but when you get passionate, you are subject to get angry and to become arrogant. And so I'm there and I'm like, Emperor's Children are not purple. Stop painting them purple. It's all wrong. And I wanted to make a whole video where I'm like, that is wrong. You don't do that. And I talked to my mum about it a lot. And I was immediately shut down. Not by my mum, but by the actual artwork. When you look at Warhammer 40k Emperor's Children models, so post Horus Heresy, there are a lot of models where we see the style that we are familiar with, which is the pink and black armor. But if you look at some of the other models, they have armor that is blue or purple, right? Remnants of the old armor that they used to wear before the Horus Heresy and during the Horus Heresy. That armor is purple. When we look at the older models, the black armor is edge highlighted with purple, right? It's not painted like a miniature with black armor, say like the Black Templars, where the black armor is highlighted with greys and whites. It's highlighted with purples and blues. So the Emperor's Children are purple. But for me to say that somebody is wrong because they have chosen to paint their particular model purple is very arrogant. And I think we can all become subject to that. We can allow our passions to cloud our judgment, and we have to be very wary of that. Moving on from that, there is a sort of theme within the Warhammer community from YouTubers to turn around and say, I did better than Games Workshop. Which is basically to say, I think the models that Games Workshop have made are garbage, so I'm going to make my own because I reckon I can do a better job than them. That's arrogant. That's not good. That's not a good thing, right? But when you watch the video is sometimes about that, and other times it's not. Sometimes it's just to get the title to get people to click on, but the video is actually about getting people to learn about things like kit bashing or sculpting and making your own variants of the same models. We saw the same thing back with the Blood Angel Sanguinary Guard with the wings, or rather the lack of wings. It's fine to be disappointed, but I want you to be careful that your disappointment doesn't make you arrogant. If you want to do something different, like you see on screen, I am making noise marines, but they are different to what Games Workshop made. That's completely fine. But to say that they are suddenly better because you don't like another version is wrong. It is the antithesis of what the creative purpose is about. When you make something, it's not about becoming better. It's not about showing off and saying, I did this better than you, get wrecked. It's not about that. When you go to conventions, when you go to competitions, and you're talking to individuals, you are just talking about your passion. You look at one another's models and you complement aspects of one style, and you might suggest something that they can do that might improve their miniatures, right? Which is a good thing to do. We always want to evolve, but we must never become arrogant. We have to learn to let go of that arrogance and move forward. So how do we do that? How do I move forward now as a channel? Well, I'm hoping that you have enjoyed this kind of talk. I'm hoping that what I'm trying to get across makes sense. Because when I make these videos, I want to not only show you how I do things, but why I do them in the way that I do. Why do I not do speed painting? Why do I not do slapshot? Is there anything wrong with slapshot or speed painting? No, there isn't. It's just not how I like to paint. I like to take my time. I will spend a week on a single squad of 5 miniatures, whereas somebody can paint a 1,000-point army in that time. But I want you to understand why I do things the way that I do. And in order for me to get that across in my videos, I have to change the format of my videos. I can't give you these explanations in the hyper fast edited videos. I can't do that. It doesn't suit that style, because in order for me to explain to you why I do something, you have to slow down, which means the video has to slow down. I want to get back to the passion. I want to get back to using cool ideas, because some of you guys have been commenting, you've been saying, this is an unconventional idea, this is great. To me, that idea that I did, sometimes it was an idea that I had out of nowhere, and then other times I did it and I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was just a normal thing people did, and then it turns out a bunch of people had never tried that before. And I want to lean into that. I want to talk about these things, but that means we have to slow down. So what I'd like you to do is let me know down below, what do you think of this style of video? Do you enjoy it more than what I've made before? Okay, I will still do guides. I think that is very important, and it's what a lot of people come for. But I think the manner of which I deliver them will be a little bit different. So when I give you a painting guide, for example, I will tell you what colors I'm using and the way that I'm painting, whether I'm using layers or dry brushes or washes or contact pigments or whatever. I will still do that, but I will spend a bit more time talking about why I do that. Because the why something is done is more important than what it actually is. Because when you paint your model, you might not have the same resources, or you might paint in a different style. For example, my dad, right? He taught me how to paint models when I was a kid. And the way I paint now is very different. But a lot of the foundations of that are still cemented in the manner of which he paints. The only difference now is that I prefer a grimdark Blanchitsu style, mostly because I like horror and I like the nasty, violent side of humanity. I like to explore that. My dad, he's an ex-soldier. When he builds and paints miniatures, everything is clean, it's uniform, it's what we would call parade ready, right? Very similar to the heavy metal style, but there's a few nuances which are a little different, but in that manner of just being clean armor, right? You don't see battle damage, you don't see dirt, you don't see blood, not typically. And he's incredibly good at what he does, but the styles are very different. And this is what I want you guys to take home when I give you these guides and I talk about these things. I want you to go, oh, this is what the guy did. He used a willow stick to make a fence with some straws or with some plastic tube or whatever. And you might go, I don't have willow sticks. What do I do? And you might go, well, I have wooden skewers. I have barbecue skewers. And you use those instead. You see, the reason or the purpose of the stick, whether it's the willow stick or the barbecue stick, is the same. But the resource is different. And that's what I want you to take home with you. That's what I want to do in the guides. And then I think conversations like this about why we paint and why we build, I think those are necessary too. I think we need to ground ourselves a little bit more. And we need to slow down. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this discussion. Let me know what you think of this style of video as well, so I know whether to pursue this style or not. And whatever you do, as always, make things, have fun, and I'll see you next time on Cursed Crusader Arts.